Alright guys, hello and welcome to a tutorial. And today we are going to be taking a look at a free open source game engine for creating your very own RPGs. So it is called RPG Boss. It is a super user-friendly JavaScript editor that requires next to no coding from the user. So we're going to delve in today because we got a lot of information to cover and not a whole lot of time, just kind of because of internet constraints. So let's jump right in here. So the project tab here, you can start a new project, load a project, save a project. You can go in and edit some settings and things like that from the asset server hostname. This will allow you to control different assets on a different hostname, and you'll input a username and password and stuff like that. This is for open source reformatting if you have programming experience and want to change anything in the interface. So we're going to be leaving everything in the default, so everything from here on is just going to be all default settings. So let's load up the database. You notice that this takes a while because there's a lot of information here. So we're going to jump right into characters. Characters are going to be the people that are within your party. So you can rename them, you can give them a subtitle, and you can give them a description. You can give them a class, at what level they'll join the party at, and what their maximum level at the end of the game is. So, ideally, you would like to set some base stats here. So, level 1 base is just going to be what their base starts at, how much they gain every time they gain a level, and over here, EXP to level up. Now, this one here is a little rough because it only increases by 100. As your enemies get tougher, you know, you're going to want them to have more experience. So you're really going to need to think about this as your game progresses, because you're only increasing at 100 increments. So not a whole lot extra that you're going to be tacking onto those tougher enemies. So that way that you can kind of stimulate development and growth equivalent to the enemies that are being fought. So, alright, so jumping in here, you can change what each character gets per level for each stat. You can also change the bases here. So that's the basic outlay there. We're not going to do too much with this today, so we're just going to keep on tabbing over here. So, under the classes section, you can create your own custom classes that have their own equipment setups and everything. So before you even create a class, you're going to go in, you're going to create all the items you want in the game, and you're going to go through each class, and you're going to want to checkbox all of the equipped items that you want them to be able to do. Now these stat boosts here, let's say that we have a paladin class. Let's say that our knight is going to undergo some training at some point in the game, and that's going to allow him to utilize magic. So that's going to be a complete and total class change, and it'll actually be a new character change as well. Bear that in mind when you're doing that. These here are bonuses that you get for being a particular class, and other effects. You can go in here and you can see that recovering HP, you can set it up to where it gets resistance to a particular element. Other is it allows you to instantly escape from battle. It allows you to learn specific skills, things like that. So, alright, so there's five basic classes here. You can look them over and edit and modify them as you want to. So the really nice thing about RPG Boss is that it comes with a bunch of preloaded enemies, it comes with a bunch of preloaded sprites, and everything. So you can set it up to be however you want. So, alright, so this guy here is a Basilisk. You can see here that his level is 50. He has a max HP of 5,000. He has a maximum MP of 40. And you can change all of these values. So you can see that he's got some known skills that are checkmarked. He doesn't have any item drops or any effect, but that's because we haven't added anything to it. So you'll just go in, modify all this stuff out, so that way that you have him set up how you want. And once you do that, we go over to the Encounters tab, and you can see that we have some preloaded encounters. So the way that encounters work is they are a preset battle that has whatever is typed in here will have that many creatures in it. So you want to make sure that when you're naming these, you're naming it what the fight actually is, because that'll help you keep organized. So let's say that I wanted to add a Basilisk to this fight. So you see, it added a Basilisk to the fight. So, we're going to leave these base encounters alone. I'm probably not going to use them. I'm going to create some of my own and show you how I am doing that. So, alright, up next is items and equipment. So, we have some preloaded stuff. You got some minor potions, some basic armor, and some basic weaponry. You've also got some items here that do some damage, okay? Alright, so the way that this works is you have the name of the item, you have the description of the item, and then you have whether or not it can be sold in a shop, and the price value at which it is sold. Whether it's a consumable item, a reusable item, equipment, or a key item is up to you, so you'll want to keep that in mind when you're creating your own items. The effect scope is what is affected by this item. If it's a healing item and you want it to be a single ally that's being healed, you would click one ally. If it's a revival item, one dead ally. So that's what that is. And then the item access is when it's available. So if it's always available, you can use it in both the menu and in battle. If it's battle only, you'll only be able to use it in battle. Now, if you have an equipment, if you're making equipment, you'll have to select what type of equipment it is. And then you'll want to click check use on attack. So you can add different effects like this one here, use skill, 74, weak ice bomb. If you have an ice bomb in your item inventory and you have the skill, weak ice bomb, it will use the skill, weak ice bomb, and throw a bomb at the enemy. That's what this is. So stat boosts, like if I click on this damaged sword here, well, I want my weapons to give my character some attacks. So let's say that it boosts the attack stat of this character by 2 whenever they're equipped. But since it's damaged, they're going to take a penalty to, let's say, speed. So since it's a damaged item, actually, since it's a damaged item, let's say, it drops our maximum MP by 2, or a maximum HP by 2, because we're using something that's broken, we might cut ourselves or something like that, and so we lose a couple of hit points right off of the top for it. So, anyways, so you can really balance out stuff and really come up with some unique equipment in order to use it. So the action skill here, the action skill is it's what animation is used when a character attacks with this item. So you'll want to keep that in mind. There's the basic one: sword, blade, hammer, staff, arrow, slash, swing, and blast. So, I mean, you can just keep those in mind. It's super easy, but you can see that it's unarmed at this point. So, nothing too special there. And you can do the same thing with like chest plates and stuff. You can have it increase your HP, things like that. So this is actually really super, super cool. Um, into skills. So skills allow you to create your own skills or utilize the pre-made skills. So let's say I wanted to use this fireball spell. Okay, so the animation is already set to 10 fireball, and we want this to have a skill point cost. And let's say it costs, let's say that fireball is a super, super cheap spell. It's an early game spell. So it's going to cost us 3 skill points. Okay, well, we know that the element is going to be fire, the damage type is magic, and the formula is attack magic times 1.25. So if you look over here, it says damage expressions are JavaScript. A is the attacker and B is the target. So an example of this would be A attack 1.2. So the math at max would be A's attack minus B's defense, and then a value here. So it comes up with the formula for how much damage this deals, and then it'll subtract the defense of that creature from this, and it'll give you a final total plus 100. Okay? So, let us continue on. Status effects. So status effects, you can create a bunch of your own. You can utilize these. They are set up in what is called ticks. Ticks are turns, basically. It's another word for it. So here we go. So we have a release chance per turn, and that's at 10% for a blaze. And you can only be set on fire at one at a time. So let's say that if you're burnt, your armor stat gets -6 because you're already burning. Your armor's not really providing you much protection. And let's go into effects and say that one effect that we want this to have is that we are going to lose some HP. Well, we're going to select recover percentage of HP because we want it to be a percentage base, so that way that it scales with our levels when we're gaining levels. So that way that status effects don't lose their potency by a character becoming stronger. So let's say that if a character is on fire per turn, they're losing 15% of their HP. Boom. That's done. This status effect is now set up. It is ready to use, and it will have a negative impact on the player. Alright, animations. So the animations just kind of show you what the animations are going to look like, and they'll show you where they're at in the system files. So you can go through, you can look at all of them if you would like, but it's super simple. You can look and see which ones you want to use. So, event classes are a way of setting up events, and we will be going into what events are in the next episode, but think of this as kind of like a quick access board for those. Right, so system. This is how you can organize things within the game. So you can select things like your game over picture, your title music, your title picture, what your game's title is, whether it displays in full screen or at a specific resolution, the font that it uses. It needs to be in MSG. Is that right? Oh no, this window. So window skin is how your menu is going to look. But anyways, let's go to message font. There we go. So yeah, it's an MSG font. So you want to make sure to download those, and I'll show you how to import extra stuff to add on to this menu here in a minute. So this is the inputs that can be used in any message box in the game. and then you can select sounds for your game and how it works. So when you're moving the cursor around in the menu, it'll make a specific sound. When you press the space bar to select something, it'll make a sound. The cancel sound will have something. The cannot sound will be a won't sound. So, alright, so enumerations. Enumerations are basically, it is your damage types and your elements all kind of lumped into one. And then you have equipment types. So your equipment types are like, you want your character to be able to equip a piece of head armor, a piece of chest armor, an offhand item, and a weapon. And let's say that they can have something on their legs and something on their feet. So characters can only have a certain amount of equipment equipped at a time, so you'll want to make sure that you are defining your equipment types properly, or otherwise you will not be able to equip your characters properly. So, continuing on here, let's see. Next is messages. So messages is it just shows you what you're inputting to the way the game reads it. Okay. So this is stuff that's used for coding, I think. I'm not 100% sure because I don't actually know how to code. That's one reason why I'm using this program. Okay, so vehicles. Vehicles, the game has a bunch of preset vehicles for you to utilize. So you can utilize those. If you want to change the sprite, you would just click where the sprite is. It'll bring up the sprite box, and this game has a lot of sprites for you to choose from. So make use of them. They're all fully animated and ready to use. If you would like to use a custom sprite set, so that way that it doesn't look so cartoony, and you want it to look more 8-bit, let's say, and less of a flash game, you can utilize your own tile sets that or utilize your own sprites that you create, and the game will actually animate them for you. So, let's see, you just got to make sure that in your sprite editor you have one with the guy's left hand facing forward and the right hand in the back and stuff like that. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. For each direction that the person is facing, it needs to have specific things that are moved so that way that I can animate it properly. So that covers the database. That is going to be our primary tool for adding things like NPCs and stuff. So, alright, resources. Maybe. There we go. Alright, so resources are how you're going to import things. So let's say that I wanted to import a new game over picture, which I've already done here. Well, I would click on picture, on import. I would import it, go to the directory, and click import. But since I've already done that, that's not necessary. But that's how you would import just anything that you were going to change in the system tab of the database. Let's see. So, tile sets. So, there's some pretty important stuff in here. You can see that it has a bunch of red X's and a bunch of green check marks. So, what these do is they dictate whether or not a player can pass through it or not, because as you see, passability and height. So, the passability and height of an object allows you to see whether that character can pass through it or not. Now, there's going to be separate layers to the game as well, so we're going to need to pay attention to layers as well. This will apply only if that tile is on the same level as the player. Same thing with your vehicle passability. Your vehicle passability, it's only going to apply if it's on the same level as the vehicle passability. So that's how you can access this for referencing what tiles you want to use for specific scenarios when you're placing. So, alright, let's go ahead and click OK. And play allows us to play our game and test it to make sure that our things are functioning correctly. And then export allows us to export our game, and this specific program allows us to export to Mac, Linux, and Windows executable files. So you can have all your friends play your game once you have it complete. The asset server, what this does is you can put in like a URL to download more assets, tile sets, sprites, things like that. And then the community chat will just obviously show the community chat. I haven't used it very much because the community is actually, in my opinion, surprisingly small. This is a great program to use. I would think that the community would be bigger, especially seeing as how it's been around for a little while. But not to worry. I have a forum that I will post a link to in the description for you guys to reference. But for now, I think I'm going to cut it off there, just so that way that I can upload this and edit it and all that jazz. So in the next time, we're going to be going over what these buttons are for and start actually getting into building our first section. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.